Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Let's Talk Morning Show live that we do every single Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m. For the third week in a row, it is just going to be me riding solo. So that's kind of why I've been announcing the main topic a little bit later in the week because I'm not sure if Dennis is going to be on or not. He sends his regards and hellos. He's just really dealing with a work issue right now, and obviously that pays all his bills. So it's more important that he deals with that before he comes back to YouTube. And, you want him to be focused on the show as it is anyway. So I don't mind picking that ball up and running across the end zone by myself and doing the show on my own. So for everyone who's here, good morning. I see there's a bunch of questions already to the right in the chat that we'll answer on the show as well. The main topic today is going to be non-spooky season movies that you watch during spooky season. Really kind of dealing with the aesthetic of all of autumn and fall. I just combined them into all because that makes sense. Good morning, Mr. Smelly Potato. That is our channel bankroll member. Thanks for being here. Nice, bright, and early. Got a bunch of questions coming up. What's your favorite Steelbook of 2025? As our channel director, Kevin Kruger. Off the top of my head, what have we gotten this year that's really like? I mean, the lazy answer is to say the Nightmare on Elm Street collection, right? Be like, oh, it comes with 7 steelbooks. But honestly, if you pull out individual steelbooks in that they're not like the greatest steelbooks. I like it when they kind of combine that matte finish with the glossy finish. Kroll was a really good steelbook, like just from thinking about. Actually, you know what? The Tron 4K steelbooks, but that kind of fits more into my style, especially more Tron over Tron Legacy. But I do like those designs. Silverado, as much as I like Silverado steelbook design, I would have liked. It's funny. I find steelbooks to be a little bit different if you were to compare them to like the standard art. The standard art, all I really want is the movie poster. But for the steelbook, I don't mind if they get creative and do something original with that. It's the liberties they take with the original artwork where I'm like, did you do this or did AI do this? I don't think you did this because Warner Brothers is the kings of that. And I used to say, and I think a lot of people also believe this as well, that the reason why Warner Brothers wouldn't use the movie poster art is because they would have had to pay an artist. But here's the thing. They own New Line Cinema. New Line Cinema has that deal now with Arrow Video. And Arrow Video, with their New Line Cinema releases, have been giving us the original movie poster art as an option. So it doesn't even make sense then that because somebody's paying that. And I assume that Arrow Video, being the much smaller company, isn't paying that extra money in comparison to Warner Brothers, who more than likely already owns the rights to those posters. So a little bit confusing. When is Dennis coming back? So yeah, no, that's all TBD, to be determined on Dennis. Not entirely sure when he'll be back. Hopefully next week, but hey, we're not going to rush him back. And honestly, it was a good time for him. If he was going to be off the channel for a little while, this was a good time because we do have a lot of 4K Blu-ray reviews this month, and that's been taking up a lot of my time for as far as my reviews go. And even for my like theater watching movies, haven't been able to really get to the theater that much because I'm not going to even really be able to review the movies. But this week I'm going to see Black Phone 2. Are you guys excited about Black Phone 2? Because I like Black Phone. The thing with Black Phone, I was really excited because Sinister, I still believe, is one of the best horror movies to come out in the last 20 years. Scott Derrickson and Ethan Hawke teamed up, did that movie. And I think it's a very underrated horror masterpiece. And I mean that when I say masterpiece. It feels like when you originally put it on, it feels like it's just a regular generic. And I remember the trailer for this studio horror film, and it's so much more than that. It's so well made. And you bring in a world-class actor like Ethan Hawke in one of these horror movies, it's going to elevate it that much more. So I liked that one a lot. Sinister 2, not so much. But when you're bringing back Scott Derrickson and Ethan Hawke to do Black Phone, I was really excited. And I felt like because of my excitement, just because of their team up, I didn't get blown away by Black Phone, but a lot of people did. And getting the sequel, it's one of the most surprising sequels ever because I don't think a lot of people were expecting that. And if you've seen Black Phone, you know why. And that's why people are speculating about like the way that they're going to be going with the franchise, which I'm excited about. I'm not going to give you guys my theory until we get to like the review because, again, don't know if everyone who's watching has seen that. But I thought Black Phone, it was good. It just wasn't great. But again, I'm going to rewatch it this week before I go see Black Phone 2. So hopefully I get a review out for that. But I'm not too sure entirely when Dennis will be back. Thoughts on the movie Together. This one I still haven't watched. So that one's coming up down the line pretty soon as well. That's getting a 4K Blu-ray release. But I heard a lot of good things about Together. Frank told me that movie was pretty damn good. That came out around the same time as Weapons. So I think I just ended up seeing Weapons. And then he said, what's your next 4K review? So the next 4K reviews on the channel, probably for the rest of this week, will be. I already filmed Nightmare on Elm Street's Freddy's Dead and New Nightmare. I'll get those out hopefully this week or beginning of next week, because I'm also getting today Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning on 4K Blu-ray, and Jacob's Ladder. And I'm not too sure which one I'm going to put out first. More than likely Mission Impossible, but that means that next week you'll get those 4K. You'll get the other one, but also then I got Eddington coming on 4K Blu-ray. I also have the Ty West X trilogy coming on 4K Blu-ray. I already saw that my Altered States shipped, and I also saw that my A History of Violence shipped. So I got a lot of 4K Blu-rays coming. Still waiting on Weapons and the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And then the week after that, we get Edward Scissorhands and Nightmare Alley. So, I mean, it's a packed month. And then at the beginning of next month, we're getting The Mask and Hard Boiled and The Breakfast Club. So, I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm really excited about that. But that's kind of like where all the energy is going. Let's see. Mr. Smelly Potato. I just bought Black Phone to watch before the second one. That's pretty much what I was going to do. I was going to buy the 4K Blu-ray to watch before the second one, but I was like, what if it doesn't get here in time? So I'm probably just going to end up renting it. I think you can watch it on Peacock, though. But yeah, I want to make sure I like that movie again. But I remember the 4K Blu-ray, and it's cool that has a 4K Blu-ray, actually, but because it didn't initially. That was one that came out on Blu-ray, and then the 4K Blu-ray came down the line, which is always strange when they do that. But I'm excited to rewatch it. I like Ethan Hawke. When I was growing up, I'll be honest, we all have those actors that we don't necessarily love. Ethan Hawke was that guy for me. He kind of always rubbed. I don't know what it was. Must have been it's always been actually, I know what it is. It's Training Day. I think I've said this to you guys before. I don't love Training Day, and it's not because of Denzel Washington. It's because of Ethan Hawke. I don't love Ethan Hawke in that movie. The thing is everybody else does, including Denzel Washington. And I got to put a bad taste in my mouth when it came to Ethan Hawke, because that's. Not only is that a performance that I didn't think was that great, but everybody else seems to love that performance, and it kind of just always rubbed me the wrong way. Honestly, it's why I don't revisit Training Day. I've only watched Training Day my entire life, like 4 or 5 times, and people like put that on a pedestal as well. And Denzel's great, but I think that's the only great thing about that movie, if I'm being 100% honest. And then when you start exploring around Ethan Hawke, the rest of his career, like if you go back to like Gattaca, and then he's in Dead Poet Society. What's that movie he was in when he was a kid? He was in that movie. I just saw it too. It's on. What it was? It was a Joe Dante movie, I think. Explorers. He was in Explorers. So he goes way back. But as he's even matured, and then obviously I'm not somebody. I'm born in 1992. The Before trilogy started in 1994. I wasn't watching those movies at a very young age, but when you go back and watch the Before trilogy, he's phenomenal. So Ethan Hawke is one of the great actors. There's no way to undersell how good of an actor he is. It's just funny. I initially came into him a little bit more hesitant, and now I would put him more on the pedestal. So definitely like him a lot. Let's see, Mr. Smelly Potato responded with. Dead Poet Society was the first Ethan Hawke movie I saw. So I didn't see Dead Poet Society. Actually, it's a really funny story. Maybe a little messed up. But anyway, when I was in high school, that was the first time I ever saw Dead Poet Society. It was in an English class, back when they still wheeled in the TV and put the VHS in. So shitty copy. Also, I was talking to somebody on the channel. That was also the first time I ever saw Robert Redford's Great Gatsby movie. So I saw that. I saw a lot of movies in school for the first time, but that's where I saw Dead Poets Society. And then during a test we were taking, probably like 3 days after we watched the movie in the same English class, a kid who was definitely on some drugs, he stood up on the desk and he went, "Oh, Captain, my Captain." And it wasn't like an applause like it was in Dead Poets Society. It was more like the teacher came over and grabbed him and dragged him out of class while we had to continue taking the test. So it was a little bit more of he was trying to get something, and it was a little bit more, oh man, why? It just didn't work that well. I appreciated his effort though. That's the big one. He gave it its all. Let's see. What's the next question from Mr. Kruger? He said, "What's your opinion of scalpers on eBay selling out-of-print Blu-rays for double or triple the price?" Yeah, I am a huge hell no on this one. I will not partake in the selling or the buying of people doing that with their physical media. I'm not somebody who likes scalpers at all. Definitely don't like scalpers when it comes to physical media. I thought that this would be a section that the scalpers wouldn't hit, that the douchebags wouldn't come for, but unfortunately, dollar bill, y'all, and they control it all. So they're going for the money, and the money is like saying, "Oh, these physical media collectors like these really limited edition steelbooks," and they come in swipe them up, and then you see them on eBay for double and triple the price. And I won't. I'll buy the standard edition. Or if the standard edition sold out, I won't buy it. I'll buy the Blu-ray. I will not partake in that ridiculous like price gouging. Because honestly, that's what the studios want is they want to that they want to build up that demand so that when the initial drop comes, you can buy it at that 4K steelbook price of like about $40 now. Like we're getting conditioned for $40 to be the new normal when it comes to 4K Blu-ray releases, and that's insane. I knew it was coming. You can go all the way back to like videos like 2 or 3 years ago on the channel. I kept saying that they were going to condition us for these 4K Blu-ray prices to go up by limiting the supply. And sure enough, that's exactly what they're doing. And it started with like kind of like Lionsgate Limited and Sony and Disney doing that team up, like holding these movies that we absolutely love hostage and giving them these limited releases. And not even a guarantee you're going to get the copy. And now they're just doing that with steelbooks in general, like Warner Brothers, how they handled the Nightmare on Elm Street collection. I hated that. That was awful. But at least Warner Brothers will give you the standard edition option. That's not something in the United States we get from every studio. Disney does not do that. Sony, for the most part, doesn't do that. Sony will sometimes just give you the standard edition and not the steelbook. So it goes a bunch of different ways, but it's essentially backed us all into a corner. And we're coming out swinging, but it's not really working. It's just because we're such a small niche audience as it is. It's almost very difficult to even speak up and complain we're so niche. Luckily, physical media is getting a little bit more popular. There's plenty of YouTube channels out there that talk about how good physical media is. And there's something special about getting that 4K Blu-ray disc. I just have one here to my right. I'm using it as an example. And just putting that into your player. You can't replicate that with digital. I told you guys I got the Criterion channel. That's one of the only good streaming services that I enjoy using. And I think it's a good way to actually help you buy physical media. But for the most part, they want to guide you to the streaming services just because they want that money. And that's what really sucks. Hey, buddy. Hey, all. Shamrock, a.k.a. David. I think I was talking to you this morning, wasn't I? Glad you could pop in the chat, man. Hope you're having a pretty good day. Yeah, just kind of answering some questions. We are going to get into the list, and maybe we'll get into it right now, and we'll kind of answer questions and go as we go on. Let's just double check. Let's see. And right here, we'll start with Mike Tani, IS7X. My favorite fall movie is A Few Good Men and The Good Son. So I actually didn't have A Few Good Men out, and I saw your comment before I started the show, and actually that's why I was a minute late getting in here, was because I had to go grab A Few Good Men on 4K Blu-ray, which I have right here, which is a Sony Columbia 4K Blu-ray release, and this is a really good one as well. A Few Good Men, definitely. I guess it never really struck me as a full-blown fall movie, but yeah, it does kind of have that tone, like when they're playing baseball outside at the beginning of the movie. We get to see that rainy Washington D.C. area. I guess it kind of has that tone. It's something that feels like September, October. So I would slide it in. I thought that was a good call. Initially didn't have it in my stack over here, but I think that's a good one to start with. Tom Cruise is amazing in this movie. Rob Reiner directed this film. Somebody pointed out Demi Moore's performance as not being that good not too long ago, and she never really bothered me in the movie. And then I paid attention to her the last time I watched, and she isn't the greatest in this film. She's a great actress. Look at The Substance from last year, and I love her in Ghost, but yeah, she's not the greatest in comparison to everybody else. I mean, Jack Nicholson comes in for his usual late 80s, early 90s performance of, I'll show up for 3 days of work and I will give the best performance in the entire film. I mean, the line in the 90s, if you were growing up or you were there, you guys remember, you want the truth? You can't handle the truth. Like, that was just everywhere. It showed up in cartoons. Like, even way before I saw A Few Good Men, I knew the line. But it's funny because I think there's better Jack Nicholson lines other than in the movie. The whole scene in the courtroom is just great. How he's going off. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. Like, he just perfect. And apparently he did that take after take while they would swap out lead actors just for different shots. Usually they would put like a stand-in to like, work with the other actors instead of like having Jack Nicholson, who's not even going to have lines to say right now, be there. But he did. He just sat there and hung out with them the whole time. And that's why people just love Jack Nicholson, because he's just like one of those, I'm here to do whatever you guys want. If I'm focused on partying, I'm focusing on that. If I'm focused on acting, I'm to give it my all, and no matter what the situation is. And yeah, he's one of my all-time favorite actors. And yeah, he comes in and sweeps in and just steals A Few Good Men. Do you collect one-click Blu-rays? I do not, actually. I don't really collect, honestly, too many just standard Blu-rays anymore. I've been mostly a 4K Blu-ray guy, and I kind of wait for movies to come to 4K Blu-ray before I actually go out and grab the Blu-ray. As for the most part, since 2017, that's been my main area of focus. Unless I want the movie and I don't think it's going to get a 4K Blu-ray release, I'll usually go in there and grab one. But that's really about it. Like I was looking yesterday for In the Name of the Father. I'm like, do I want to just rent this or do I want to grab the Blu-ray? Will it get a 4K Blu-ray release? After watching it, I think it eventually would get a 4K Blu-ray release. It wouldn't surprise me at all because I think it's a universal release. So I mean, given Coal Miner's Daughter is actually a Best Picture winner, so that makes sense to get a 4K Blu-ray release. But not everything gets the 4K Blu-ray treatment, as it shouldn't. Like sometimes the Blu-ray is enough to like max it out. But continuing down my stack here, I got Big Fish, which a lot of people kind of forget how good this movie is, which really sucks. This is one of the later period Tim Burton movies. I think that came out in 2003. And Tim Burton, like from the late 80s to the 1990s, this guy could not miss. He came out of the gate hot with Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Then he followed up with Beetlejuice. And then obviously Batman was a world-changing film. But even throughout the 1990s, even though he didn't direct what's it called? Why am I trying to blank on the movie? But anyway, he didn't direct The Nightmare Before Christmas. He directed Batman. He's contractually obligated to do that. He directed Ed Wood. I really like Mars Attacks. Sleepy Hollow is perfect for this time of year as well, but we'd say that's more of a Halloween film, more of a horror film, definitely spooky season more, but it definitely captures that autumn vibe. It's a very good film. So, that one kind of didn't have the big following it should have when it came out, but it was more of a cult following film because people nowadays realize that that is just a huge love letter to Hammer horror films. And then he did, unfortunately, I think right before this, he did Planet of the Apes, which I saw in theaters in 2001, and that's where the cracks in the foundation started to show. But then he did kind of go back to like the normal Tim Burton thing and make Big Fish, which is really a father-son film. And if you had any sort of relationship with your father, this one probably resonated pretty well. So I thought, and then it's going through his life, but it seems to always kind of have those like warm fall tones throughout of it. It doesn't, you could say maybe the green grass is a little bit too springy. Like they go to that town where there are no streets, nothing's been paved yet, and they got the lights hanging across. So it looks like somebody's backyard in autumn, and it's beautiful. I love that segment in the movie. Even like later when they're at the actual cemetery, it looks like it's like a September day, September kind of fall. Like the leaves aren't fully falling yet, but it just has that autumn feel, I think, throughout. And it kind of takes some stuff that he learned in Sleepy Hollow while kind of making more of a melodramatic film, which is different for Tim Burton. He was kind of wearing his emotions on his sleeve. Like before this, he's the gothic horror guy, and he kind of takes those elements and puts it in here. But for the most, like, there's still that Tim Burton weirdness, but for the most part, it's something different he's going for with this movie. Something that's going to be more like just something that I think it's more palatable is the best way to put it. I think anyone could have watched this movie. Ewan McGregor is great in the lead role, as he always is. He's just a very reliable actor, whether he's putting the accent on or not. He's doing a great job in this movie. Just the guy, it's a fairy tale, but it's just basically about how a person builds up the legend of their father only to become an adult and realize that they're human beings too. And it's okay to believe in those stories that, your father told you growing up, or the fact that you probably won't ever be able to live up to the legend that your father is. Like, that's all okay. Your father still loved you. And he had to realize while watching this movie that no matter what, his father loved him. He just spread his love around to a lot of people. And at the end, when you see how many people were there for his funeral, you realize that he was such a loved person that, maybe I was selling this guy short too because I didn't get enough of him. And I just thought it's a beautiful movie. And it's what I can highly recommend if you haven't seen it. It's also got that really good 4K Blu-ray release. If I can recommend that one pretty highly if it ever goes on sale. I got ever to go back to the future steelbooks. No, I'm probably not going to be getting those. I wish I could, but it feels like it's a little bit out of my price range at the moment, especially since I already have the Back to the Future standard 4K Blu-ray releases. I would like them if they're there maybe in a few months when I have a little bit of extra money and there's not as many 4K Blu-rays coming out. Like right now, we're really in the thick of it when it comes to physical media. We're getting good stuff every single day. It feels like more than likely just every week we're getting stuff, but still it's awesome. I mean, there's not really a slow week in the next couple of months, and maybe January will be that point. And you go around thinking, okay, I can pick up some stuff that I couldn't really grab back in like November when we were just getting great 4K Blu-ray release after another. What'd you say? Let's see. I haven't seen Big Fish in years. I need to revisit it. I think you would really like that movie, David. Actually, it's. I remember the first time. It's funny because I didn't really like that movie until I was an adult. Like it came out in like 2003. I saw it. I know I didn't care for it at all because I didn't see it again until I got older, and then I really appreciated it because I mean it becomes just at the core, it's just that father son story. But you can still just watch it like I kind of was in 2003 for like when they go see Danny DeVito at the carnival, like that kind of stuff. Like it's funny, and you get to see like these weird characters, like the really tall guy, like and the witch, and see them like and like okay, that's like the Tim Burton stuff that I know. But if you watch it just for just let the film be what the film is trying to be, it becomes much better. And in saying that, it becomes a great film. I would put it maybe not in the. I might make my top 5 Tim Burton films. I haven't done a Tim Burton. There's a list on the channel. I haven't done one in a long time, but this time of the year, I always kind of get in the mood to revisit his stuff. And you know how it is, David. Opinions change. My list might not be the same as it was 2 years ago. I noticed that, like with my PTA list that we did on the show last week. My list changed on when you rewatch a movie. The movie might be the same, but you change. You're not the same person you were 2 years ago. You're not the same person you were when you were like 10 years old compared to now. So things change, things rearrange. Let's see what David says here. Yeah, I loved it back then, so I'm wondering how I feel now. You might cry today. I think that's what it might make you do. I think that's the goal of the film in the very end, and I think it gets there. So the next one on my list, and you could just tell from the colors of the box why it's on this list, and that is Wes Anderson's The Fantastic Mr. Fox. I have the Blu-ray right here, which just got a 4K Blu-ray release. Unfortunately, I was not able to afford the entire Wes Anderson 4K Blu-ray collection. One day I'll be able to get that when I get some cash money, but unfortunately right now, the Blu-ray is more than fine. I love this one. I come inside, a lot of paperwork. 3-disc set, by the way, which is actually incredible. One of the best Wes Anderson films. For me, I still wouldn't even put it in the top 3. It's grown on me each time I've watched it. It's just because they're kind of just taking they're taking real life allegories and they're applying them to like the animal world, and it's just over. I mean, it's funny as hell. Don't get me wrong. George Clooney in there. Bill Murray comes in and has just a great cameo as one of the characters. But it also just why it feels so odd to me is all the colors in this movie. It's just orange, browns, all the colors you think of this time, like like that dark greens. All of that works in this movie very, very well. At first, that's another one where the first time I saw it was not a big fan. I mean, I'm wondering if that's how I'm going to be with Isle of Dogs because I never really loved that movie, and I'm hoping that maybe now, which just got a 4K Blu-ray release, maybe now that movie will grow on me because that's kind of what happened with Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think that was 2005, and that's when I probably didn't really start enjoying until like after like 2015, probably when I got more on Wes Anderson's algorithm. Things change, as certain characters said in Batman Returns. I can't even do the voice, but yeah, that's the truth. Things change. Circumstances changes, the world changes, you change. The film though never changes unless a new director's cut comes along, and then that might change the film, but that's a whole different story that we're not here. Speaking of Batman, my next one on my list is very much a spooky season kind of movie, Batman Forever. And this one, it's got one Halloween scene in it, and that's enough, though, for me to put this on the list. You could even say Batman 89 is kind of an autumn-feeling film. I mean, that scene of just it's the best shot in the movie of the Batmobile going through those, like, dead Tim Burton-y looking woods, like, where, there's not a leaf on the fucking trees, but on the ground, all those orange leaves being blown around while you got the yellow look of the Batmobile lights from Batman 89. That is fantastic stuff. But Batman Forever has the Twick or Tweet with Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones, who just could not tolerate Jim Carrey's tomfoolery. But yet, he's the one turning it up trying to play the Joker in the movie, so go figure. But Batman Forever always had a special place in my heart. It was the first Batman film that I ever saw. Like, I saw Batman Forever before I saw Batman 89 and Return, so I retroactively went back. So technically, Val Kilmer was my first Batman and still my least favorite Batman. I do not love Val Kilmer's performance as Bruce Wayne or Batman. I would even put George Clooney over him, which I know a lot of people would say is sacrilege. I didn't say Batman Forever is a worse film than Batman Returns. I just said George Clooney's a better Batman than Val Kilmer. And it's fun. It's a fun kind of like neon drenched Batman film. It's nothing like the two films that came before it, even though you have a couple of characters like Alfred, Michael Go, however you pronounce his last name, carry over. It's still a very different world. They have rearranged this to be a Michael Schumacher heavy neon world. They're trying to sell toys. This motherfucker right here bought those toys back in the mid to late 90s. I had the Batman Forever Batmobile for the longest time. I had the Jim Carrey Riddler for the longest time. Jim Carrey was one of my heroes. I was the Riddler for Halloween when I was a kid. And just the fall vibes about this film still carry over to this very day. Uh, I love that scene in Batman Forever, and Batman's score is immense. Yeah, that's Tim Burton. The Danny Elfman score from Batman '89 is absolutely incredible in that scene, and it's probably the best. It's my favorite scene in the movie, and it's just a very small scene with no dialogue. The character. It's like a silent film. How they're driving along. It feels like something that Tim Burton would make, and if you love Tim Burton. Before that, like if you saw Beetlejuice, like it just makes sense and it still feels unique and original to this day. I love the Dark Knight trilogy. Again, I got a tattoo on my arm, but those cities are just the cities that they filmed in. They don't really necessarily feel like Gotham City. The Gotham City, even in Batman Forever, feels unique. It doesn't feel like a city that you could just go into on Earth right now. Like it feels original. It feels built. It feels something that only Batman could go to. And unfortunately, when you watch The Dark Knight, it's like, oh, that's Chicago. Or you watch it, or you watch The Dark Knight Rises, and you're like, oh, Pittsburgh, beautiful. They don't even try and change the colors of the team or anything. It's basically still the Steelers. But Batman Forever always kind of just gave off those like fall vibes. It feels like something you would watch in October, mostly October. I wouldn't even say September, but mostly October, maybe November, but definitely that time of the year. But I would definitely include Batman Forever on the list. Next one, I thought about it, but there's a lot of shots from the movie Big that are in autumn, and you could tell it's the early football season. I mean, we get the New York Giants sweatshirt on. He's wearing it the entire movie. I think they're in Queens, if I remember correctly, and that like my mom lived in an area like this growing up where the houses were so close like that in Queens, New York. And you're either a Jets or Giants fan. Unfortunately, Tom Hanks was a Giants fan who are doing really well right now for all the New York football fans with Scattaboo over there and Jackson Dart. Looked like you guys got your quarterback and your running back. As long as that guy doesn't get 454 concussions, you guys will be great. The Jets, on the other hand, are 0-6, the worst football team in the NFL. The only team without a win right now are the New York Jets. And you and I passed for more yards than the New York Jets did this past Sunday because they had -10. So even though we didn't show up and put the pads on, we still threw for more yards than Justin Fields did, which is insane. It's just we are terrible. Aaron Glenn, I like the guy from Detroit. I think he's in over his head. I think we're done. Obviously we're done for this year, but I don't even see a gateway for the future. We're the worst franchise in the league. Might even be the worst franchise in the world in any sport right now. I've never seen a franchise this horribly run, and it's a shame. I'm a fan of them. So in part, I blame myself because I'm not out there trying to fix things either. So it's tough being a New York football fan right now. New York baseball fans just kind of got killed with, the Yankees. The Mets, they already let us down, but the Yankees just could not get past the Blue Jays. And now the Blue Jays are down 0-2 to the Seattle Mariners, which is cool. You never get to see the Mariners go this far in the playoffs. So if they go to the World Series, I still believe, even though what happened yesterday in Game 1, I still believe that the Dodgers will eventually go to the World Series and win. Whoever wins out of the American League, it's just no doubt at this point. That payroll is just absolutely insane. I mean, and the roster itself that they built up with Mookie Betts, Yakamoto, and obviously so many other players like Showtime. Oh, Tani, incredible. They're just unbeatable. What's an 80s movie that didn't age well and probably wouldn't be made today? Yeah, Biggs actually, I think, fits right into that category of hasn't aged well because of, he's a 13-year-old kid and I'm pretty sure, banged him. And obviously, she banged him as, Tom Hanks. But we see at the end of the movie that he turns back into a kid. It's a weird thing to think about. Like, either way, or his emotions were that of a 13-year-old. So she kind of still took advantage of a child. And it's a little bit weird if you think about it like that, because again, Penny Marshall. I absolutely still love that movie. I don't care. I love Big, but I don't know if that movie would get made today. You probably wouldn't remake. They probably wouldn't make Porky's today or Revenge of the Nerds because of the same kind of thing of like how sex was treated for children and like unnecessary that are definitely rape scenes. They definitely wouldn't make those movies today. Some of that stuff was it was innocent for the time, and that's the thing is like they wouldn't make it today in 2025, that's for sure, but it's of the time. So those movies are still fun to go back and rewatch if you understand like what the thought process was of the time. I don't think it still hurts that movie. Like there's so many movies from the 1980s, and I love the 1980s. I think it's the greatest decade for film. You could go back and go, they wouldn't do that, and they wouldn't make that joke. Like there's a lot of homophobia and a lot of racist jokes built into that stuff. But again, that's just how it was. Like it really didn't change until like the last like what 10 to 15 years. I would say like the generation after my generation started to come up, they started to like realize like, like this is kind of weird, don't you think? And it's like, yeah, I see what you're saying. They definitely wouldn't do that now. That's for sure. Like if you go back and just watch any horror movies from back in the day, like that stuff would just not fly. Just the way that kids are being treated. It's just stuff that wouldn't fly. But I'm trying to think of more movies from the 80s that couldn't be made today. If you guys got any throughout, drop them in the comments. But like the big ones, you can still make Terminator. There's no doubt about that. Child's Play, you can still like make Child's Play, the Texas Chainsaw sequels. What other 80s movies? I mean, the 80s are just filled with so many. Like, I think I hit the big ones. Caddyshack, I still think you could make today. There's a lot of like crude jokes in that movie, but I think overall, the Cinderella story is just something that we could all still laugh at because Bill Murray's just being Bill Murray. I mean, all the stuff with John, like the Breakfast Club is still pretty innocent. Obviously, the tropes have changed, and like kids don't treat each other like that cruel anymore. But I still think that that's a great lens into the past. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, even that, like I think, still is something we can go back into. I thought Weird Science, yeah, I mean that whole story is pretty messed up. But again, I still think Weird Science is innocent because they're teenage boys, and of course they would want to create the prettiest girl of all time. You can't do that now. I always heard rumors that they were going to remake that movie, but I definitely don't think you could do that. Can't make Terminator today. It's prejudice against AI. That's a great joke. Oh my god. That's what's gonna get. We didn't even think about that. That's the first thing they're coming for. When AI takes over, they're gonna be like, "This is propaganda bullshit," and they're gonna hold up I'm gonna be like, "The Terminator," and then be like, "Yeah, you hear what they're talking about in this movie?" They're gonna go right for Tron. I'll be like, "No, this entire thing. This is how the revolution starts. They see things like this." Then I'd be like, well, nobody really liked Terminator Genesis anyway. Okay, fine. They can keep that around. Whatever. It's not going to cause a rise up. But that's absolutely hysterical. They couldn't make it because of the AI. Didn't even think of that. I mean, obviously, they learned some of their lessons from Ghostbusters, like with all the cigarette smoking. They stopped that by Ghostbusters 2. That's such a big thing throughout the 1980s is how, normal people smoking cigarettes were. Everyone was just doing it everywhere. They just had it in their hands during casual conversations. And that was kind of normal to me growing up anyway, because like my mother is a huge cigarette smoker. You could argue she's basically just a cigarette at this point. And she, it was normal, like anywhere we were until it became a law. And I remember she was pissed about that no smoking indoors law. And, when you watch 80s movies, they're all doing it no matter what. Like it didn't even matter. Like even movies like Look Who's Talking, like there's just jokes in these movies. I don't really necessarily think that the movies themselves are the big issue. I think the movies themselves kind of hold up. It's just the kind of the jokes and the jokes who they're directed towards. That's the stuff that just doesn't hold up all these years later, and they would never do that in 2025 just because they know the pushback. But every movie's trying to be safe now. I saw that Scary Movie, which David and I are talking about in our Scream episode. That's 25 years old now. Those jokes are absolutely insane if you were to never see them before. Like I told you guys a couple weeks ago about the Miss Man joke. Like that joke, it's making fun of somebody who's trans, clearly. Everybody's a homophobe in the scene. But I swear to God, I cracked up when like her name was Miss Man. I'm like, that is the stupidest fucking name. But it made me laugh because of how stupid it is. And but if that was in a movie that came out tomorrow, Jesus Christ, it'd be over. I love that 1980s New York gritty smoking era. LOL. Yeah, I love that too. After Hours. That's a great like 1980s New York movie because apparently that's actually what New York was like at night. That's one thing I like the end of Jason Takes a Ferry to Manhattan because I love how New York looks in that era. The smoke coming out of the sewers, like that's just so cool. The subways, everything looks like gritty and nasty. Like you could say like it maybe looked better in the 70s with like Taxi Driver and like the Warriors, but the 80s had its own distinct look as well because everybody had no problem walking around with those ridiculous clothes on. That was insane to me. Uh, it's every once in a while somebody pops in the real world now, or I guess they glitched out and they still have that 80s hair. But I'm rewatching the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and these very much are products of the 1980s. Just like casual characters, like that's almost a cartoon. Like it's a Halloween costume at this point, like the way some of these people are, and they're just in school, like it's a normal Tuesday. Hair out to here, up to here. No offense, David. I know you probably wish any hair right now would be good for you, but it sucks. Like I'm looking at this, I'm like, I can't believe this was just like the normal look for all these people every day. It's pretty wild, and those are the people who judge people today. But yeah, that stuff hasn't aged great at all. But I still absolutely love it. It's like getting into a time portal to the 1980s and like what the world was like. It also seemed a lot more innocent back then, if I'm being honest. Like everything, like yeah, like it's mean in a lot of ways, but I think now we're just so aware of the meanness that we call everybody out on everything, and we're just kind of lost our sense of humor. And that's kind of what sucks. Like it's fun to go back and see like those things that we know wouldn't get made today, but go, it was funny. We just didn't like. I don't think a lot of people were laughing with mean intent. I think they were just laughing at jokes back then. Next on up, which I wanted to actually rewatch, but I couldn't, was Miller's Crossing, directed by the Coen brothers. That was actually one of the early reviews I did here on the channel was for that release, and I love Miller's Crossing. I think it's one of the most underrated Coen brothers films out there. It's also one of the best gangster films of all time. But man, if that movie is 100% taking place in October, I mean, there's a lot of scenes. Look at the colors on the box, like that, that off white, not full white, with a little bit of yellow built in, browns, greens, oranges, deep reds, all that stuff. And then like the greens on the inside, like, because of the era that it takes place, all that stuff just looks so crisp and so much of the era. It's a beautiful looking film. The Coen brothers created their own kind of like dialogue for the film, like you fancy pants, all he is like the way these characters are talking was like just how they wrote this movie. That's just it. It's just something that is completely Coen brothers, which is just what they are in general. If you look at some of their best films, it's just like it's wholly unique, and that movie is one of them, and it's one that's so easy to revisit too because it's so fun. And gangster films are always, this is clearly also a love letter from them to those 1930s gangsters films because of the era it takes place in. But it still also feels modern, very smart. I think the movie really works. I still think it works very much to this day, and I would put it to the Pepsi Challenge against a bunch of other great gangster films. It doesn't hit Godfather or Goodfellas levels, but like in that second tier of gangster films, I think Miller's Crossing slides in there really nicely, in my opinion. Of course, I don't know if everybody loves Miller's Crossing, but I've always been a very big fan of the movie. So, also, I think it's a good time for us to do our digital code giveaway. So I'm going to share that screen right now with you guys. Label Magic Wheel, and then I'll show you guys some digital codes so that you know what you're winning if you are into this. I'm gonna turn the volume down because I know this is gonna hurt my ears, but maybe you guys could still hear it. We'll shuffle it around a little bit, shuffle the deck, and here we go. And we'll see who wins this week. 2 digital code giveaway. Miller's Crossing is great. I thought for a second when I read that because my icon is great. You wrote isn't great. He's trying to ruin the morning. Let's see. Okay, the Destroyer, it looks like, has won our first digital code. We're going to remove him. And we'll spin one more time for our other digital code giveaway winner. And I should probably add some screenshots, right, of like what's up for grabs. Because I know that there are people who are entering the digital giveaway who are in this chat right here. And I thank you guys for joining me so early in the morning, or in David's case, his early afternoon. I get why not everybody would want to wake up so early and spend their morning with me. Makes a lot of sense. These are the digital codes, by the way. Let's add this back to the stage. And the second winner was Evil Dead 1996. So congratulations. Hey, what's up, buddy? Thanks for stopping in. I really appreciate it. Eli Cortez, thanks for stopping in the chat, my man. I appreciate you stopping in this morning. And again, starting your day with me. Always the goal of the morning show. So, guys, if you are one of the 2 digital code giveaway winners, you can reach out to me at my email address, let's talk entmt@gmail.com, or of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Direct message me. I don't check those as much as my email. So if you want like the best way to get to me first, because I only have one of these digital codes, that's the best way to do it. These codes are up for grabs. Silverado is what I can highly recommend. And then over here, we got Straight Outta Compton, Thor Love and Thunder, Tron Legacy, which I'm surprised nobody has grabbed yet because I thought people loved that movie. And of course, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which we're getting the new one next year, I believe. Don't forget to slash the like button and sub to this awesome channel. I appreciate that, guys. If you could slam that like button and subscribe, it would definitely help the channel out so it can continue to grow. But we are still talking about, while we took our little pit stop right there, we are still talking about, those autumn films, those spooky season films. And, that raises a good question I wanted to ask you guys. Around this time of the year, a lot of people, they're full blown in the horror. People I talk to, 31 Days of Halloween, they're only watching horror. Do you guys get a little burnt out by that? I've always kind of been the person that needs to take like slight breaks from genres. I even like TV shows, certain types of movies. I get a little bit bored and I like to go out, stretch my legs a little bit, like say like a comedy. Like for an example, yesterday my wife and I, all we watched was In the Name of the Father, which I was talking to David about this morning. I had never seen it before, but Daniel Day-Lewis in the news right now, and my favorite podcast, The Big Picture, did a Daniel Day-Lewis ranking. So I wanted to watch In the Name of the Father for the first time, and damn, what a great fucking movie. But after that, I was going to put Black Phone on because we need to watch it before Black Phone 2. And, my wife and I were like, yeah, we've been watching a lot of horror. Let's do something a little bit different. So we put on Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay because we just did watch Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle last week. So, obviously now we got to watch the trilogy and Escape from Guantanamo Bay. That's something that could absolutely 110%. I'm still surprised those movies got made then, could not be made in 2025, Mr. Smelly Potato. There is no way. And I saw those movies in theaters underage. So I think 2004 was the first Go to White Castle. I was 12. And this one was, I believe, 2006. So I was 14. I remember getting absolutely zero pushback from anybody at those movie theaters for going in there and seeing these, stoner movies. Given I was a child who, before the age of 18, definitely smoked a lot of weed. So they were up my alley. That's for damn sure. And Harold and Kumar, it's funny. Those movies are so old now. Neil Patrick Harris, that was kind of like right back during his comeback. Like the first one came out the year before How I Met Your Mother, and then Guantanamo Bay is the year after How I Met Your Mother. So he was basically, pre-superstardom to like, he's basically now, I wouldn't say an A-lister, but like a B-plus lister at this point, Neil Patrick Harris. But he was game for those movies, totally willing to spoof himself. I mean, you see those actors now and they're just not the same person they were. They were chilled, guys in their 20s back when those movies were coming out, but they're so raunchy and ridiculous. All the racism in those movies, which they're calling it out. So you can say like, oh, it's still very funny because they're calling out all the shit. It's like, oh, so things really haven't changed, have they? But the movies still hold up very well, in my opinion. I still think the first Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle is the best of them, but hey, I enjoy them all. Even the one the Christmas movie with the 3D, I still like that one. It's funny that was them like getting the band back together. That was their third film, and that's what now, 14 years old. So the movie that was basically their legacy sequel is 14 years old. That's how long it's been for these Harold and Kumar movies. Next up, The Big Chill. This one's directed by Lawrence Kasdan. I'll bring it up right here. I have the Criterion Blu-ray, waiting for that Criterion 4K Blu-ray release of The Big Chill. I think that movie, fantastic. It's very much an emotional movie. It's probably a nostalgia trip for people of like the 1980s who grew up in like the 50s and 60s. It's more of their kind of movie. Lawrence Kasdan, the guy who wrote Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, directed that movie, Silverado. I need to see Grand Canyon. But he always kind of makes these like sentimental movies, which are usually very much up my alley. I'm not going to lie and say I don't like a good melodrama. That's why Big Fish was on this list. And like I watched the John Candy documentary the other day. And that made, those I like the warmness of that. I like to see things that make you feel good. I don't always need to watch something like depressing or sad, even though there is some. I mean, the movie literally starts off with one of the main characters killing themselves, but it gets the old band back together, brings all these friends in from around the country who haven't seen each other in a while. Something, all of us. That's why I think it's even timeless. Yes, it's about people of this age of that time, but it's also timeless because we all have that where we've all drifted apart and you get back together and it's like, oh man, it's something special about when we work together. And it's only for a moment because it's gonna be over it's gonna be over pretty soon, and you're gonna go your separate ways, and that's gonna be it. This might be the last time you see somebody. You don't even realize that. And all that's built into this movie with a bunch of people, singing and dancing and having fun to all like the Motown stuff. It's all fun and it's just good to see each other. Of course, it gets a little weird at the end if you've seen the movie. You know, uh one of the characters cheated on the other one and they're married, and I'm not going to spoil it too much, but let's just say that to try and get forgiveness and clear a conscience, she says, hey, you know what, why don't you go knock up one of our other friends, and that way we'll be even. It's a little bit weird when you think about it. That's probably an 80s movie also that wouldn't get made today, but I absolutely still love The Big Chill. I think that one is a fantastic film. But like I was asking you guys, I kind of got a little off topic. I kind of pulled what's that? A Chief Wiggum from The Simpsons there, where he's like, "Wait, when the dogs catch Millhouse, are they gonna stop him or are they gonna eat him?" Well, I think they're just gonna, they're gonna get to. You didn't answer my question. You kind of just drifted off. Yeah, I guess I kind of did just drift off there, didn't I? Which, by the way, this time of the year, perfect for watching the Treehouse of Horrors of The Simpsons, which I have a DVD over there that I just got pretty recently. But you can watch them all on Disney Plus if you'd like as well. But sometimes the lower quality feeling of those is kind of reminiscent of like what they were like when they came out. Those were huge back in the day. The way they promoted that stuff on Fox. I don't know if you guys are big Simpsons fans or not. And also, if there's any problems with the chat, make sure you guys let me know. Usually, there isn't, but if there is, let me know. Pass that information along because that does happen from time to time. But like I was saying, because I drifted off again, is you know, um, I completely forgot, lost my train of thought. But like, do you guys get? No, I didn't. Do you guys get bored though, like at this time of the year, of only watching horror movies, or you guys like stop and take breaks and watch some other stuff, watch some dramas? Like that's the thing about this time of the year as well, is all like the Oscar baity movies start coming out, like the Roof Man this past week. I know Mr. Smelly Potato, so that was a good movie, so I got to check that one out. But you kind of get those kinds of movies that aren't something that are horror related coming out. Tron Ares came out this past week. This week, obviously, the big one is Black Phone 2, and then Shelly Oaks the week after, which is pretty damn cool because one of my inspirations for actually starting this channel was Chris Stuckman. He was one of my favorite critics. He was on YouTube, and when film criticism kind of shifted over to YouTube, that was the first big one that I found was Chris Stuckman, and now the guy's directing a movie, so that's pretty awesome to see. Like one of our own get out there and like live his dream and direct a film. That's not the usual pathway for filmmakers. This is to go from, hey, I'm a YouTuber who reviews movies and now I get to make horror movies. But that's awesome. So that comes out, I think, October 24th. So I'm trying to think if there's any like non-horror stuff that's coming out this month, but that stuff kind of starts to come out this time of the year. And then obviously November, that's it. It's full blown, like these are award season films. I've also heard mixed things on that. I don't know how this year is looking as far as, compared to last year. I think this year, actually, we might get more of the mainstream movies getting more recognition at the Academy Awards, like movies like Sinners and One Battle After Another and Weapons. I think that, which I actually think are the best films to come out this year, along with Eddington and 28 Years Later, which are, more major studio films that have been released. So a little bit different compared to like yesteryear, where we would only get the usual kind of thing, the usual kind of releases of the awards baity films that, like, what was last year's big film that came out? I can't remember, that everybody fucking hated but got nominated for so many awards on Netflix that nobody talks about it anymore because why would anyone care about that at this moment in time? If you checked out I Swear. I haven't checked out I Swear yet. I'll have to check it out though. I'll definitely put it on the list of movies I need to check out. There's so much around this time of the year I gotta watch, but definitely I will check that one out. There's so many great movies coming out as well. Mr. Smith, I think this year was a great year for movies. I agree. That's the thing. I think that this year has been phenomenal, and it's just like we've gotten them all year long, like stretched out from January. And now it's like, oh, they're putting out the awards films, and you hear from people who have gone to like the the film festivals, not from everybody, but for the most part, being like, some of the films that they've built up to be the big films at the Academy Awards haven't been living up to the hype. But the movies that everyone's going out and seeing, like One Battle After Another and Sinners, like those are the big movies this year. Almost like how Parasite was a few years ago. Like it felt different. It didn't feel like the rest of the movies that were coming out. It felt like, this is something that could appeal to everybody, not just like the regular, usual film snooty critics out there. I swear it just came out here in Scotland. Oh, did it? So we gotta look that up and see like where I could even watch that right now, because I might be. I swear, movie popped right up because of obviously my phone is listening. Jones. Its release date is October 10th from Studio Canal in 2000. So it's right now. It doesn't even have a U.S. release date. It's just that labeled a British film, so I can't even watch it right now here. It's only in the United Kingdom. No U.S. release date. It was released at TIFF, but no U.S. release date as of yet. So I can't even check that one out yet. I will though. It'll definitely be on my radar. My favorite movie I saw this year was Jaws. Has anything past that for a year? Like, did anything ever jump Jaws? Like, jump the shark? Did anything ever for a while there go, you know what? This year I watched The Terminator. It was better than Jaws for 1 year. I'm curious if anything ever did that. Like, of course, every year I watch The Terminator. I'm like, was The Terminator better than every movie I saw this year? That's what those ranking lists I do at the end of the month are like. Like, was everything better than the movies that I like in comparison to like my favorite films? Like every month I'll probably throw in one of my favorites. Is it better? Not entirely sure. What's up, the Destroyer? By the way, Destroyer, we were just talking about you. You won our digital code giveaway, so make sure you reach out to me. You know how to do it. You've won before, after the show. Since you're here, though, I'll make sure to splash up on the screen some of the codes that we have. I have a few more, but I don't know if any of them are going to be as appealing as this. But if you want to let me know, always let me know in the email, buddy. Thanks for picking me as a winner. Hey, I didn't pick anything, man. The magic wheel did all the work. I just put your name on it. But congratulations. I saw John Carpenter's The Fog last night. Me and David, aka Shamrock Balls, we reviewed that actually not too long ago on the Let's Talk Movies podcast. Actually, probably was a long time ago at this point, but that is a good one for this time of the year as well. I mean, The Fog it's not my favorite John Carpenter film, but there's a lot of good in that movie. It's just a classic ghost story. It's so much fun. Sinners is still my favorite of the year. I am so conflicted. I really don't know what I'm leaning towards right now. I'm gonna have to do a 1 day watch when One Battle After Another comes to physical media, so that I can just watch them back to back. Because right now I'm like a coin flip. I do believe that that's like 1A, 1B, One Battle After Another, and Sinners for me. I don't know which one to pick. Both of them are 5-star, 10 out of 10 films, the best films I've seen this year. Like Eddington is really close as well. That one I'm waiting for my rewatch to see how that plays at home. But Sinners I've watched 3 times now, and it gets better each time. I've seen One Battle After Another twice. I've only seen Eddington once, and 28 years later, I've only seen that one. So right now, like my favorites and Weapons, I've only seen the one time too. That one is so much fun. I had a great time at theater, so I got to see how that plays back at home. Hopefully, my 4K gets here pretty soon for that. But Sinners, man, that's a special one. And that one, again, when we brought it to physical media, the IMAX enhanced scenes, that's a special movie. And if I was going to pick a season when you watch that, I would say that kind of slides into like the September area. It does have like the oranges of of the South, but it also could feel like a summer film because how hot it is in the South. Just a beautiful looking movie. Got so much to say, so much in the subtext. You could also just watch it as a classic vampire film if you wanted to. Either way, it's an amazing movie, and I agree with you. So right now, I'm so conflicted. I don't know which way to go. So my top 10 of the year comes out in January. It's still, I do believe there's still a couple months to go, but I think it'll come down to One Battle After Another and Sinners. I don't know which way it'll go. I'm really just gonna have to do that back to back rewatch and see where it goes from there. Next on the list, as far as movies that are, and I realize this is a horror movie, so I don't know why I grabbed this. So we're gonna put that down because it shouldn't have been there. But next up, and this one again, kind of relying on the back of one scene, but it tells us when this movie is taking place in the autumn, and that's E.T., which is my favorite Steven Spielberg film of all time. I go back and forth. Like Close Encounters of the Third Kind really gets close now. You could argue, well, they're very similar films. Of course, they get close to each other. But E.T. is such a big part of my childhood, which it shouldn't really even be that big part of my childhood because I wasn't even born in the 1980s. But my mother, who spent her younger years and teenage years, and then of her early adult years in the 1980s, loved ET, and she wanted to make sure she showed her kids how much she loved ET. And me being her son, that was a big one for me as a child. That's why I also really love Poltergeist, is because of my mother. And good times, since I'm talking about my mother, she's the person who showed me movies like Father of the Bride, Part 1 and Part 2, which might in this circle might not be one of the more beloved films, but I grew up with those movies and I loved them. And Diane Keaton just recently passed away, so R.I.P. One of the great female actors of all time, one of the greatest actors of all time. I mean, she's Kay in the Godfather films. That's probably her most popular role, or maybe in Annie Hall, which won her an Academy Award. But I'll always like kind of think of the later career, Diane Keaton first and foremost, like the First Wives Club too. Like I know those might not be like the popular choices, but I'll be honest, like watching Father of the Bride Part 1 and Part 2 is a New Year's tradition here in my house with my wife and I. I've always kicked around doing a video about it just because it's always kind of been the thing that we do here. We watch those movies, and a lot of that's because of my mom. And without her, wouldn't have probably loved E.T. and Steven Spielberg so much, because she loved those 1980s films. So I got to give her a lot of credit. So I'll pat her on the back this morning. And without her, I wouldn't have E.T. and I wouldn't have probably discovered the joy of Reese's Pieces, which is the gift that keeps on giving. M&M's, you missed out. Love M&M's too, but Reese's Pieces, I'm going to give the slight edge too. And they're great in your popcorn if you're ever at the movies. Get that little melty chocolate shell on the popcorn. I think it really works. But E.T., fantastic film to this very day. It's just basically a kid in his old kid in his alien story. A kid who needs a friend. He finds a friend that he never expected to find, and it's Mr. E.T. over here. E.T. though, he's not going to survive on this planet, so he's got to get home. And they're going to help him phone home. Young Drew Barrymore. It does have that autumn look to it. Like there's plenty of scenes that take place in the woods. And you could tell it's like that cold autumn night, especially the scene, unfortunately, where E.T. would think he's dying. He ends up being like the same color as me. And it's heartbreaking. As a child, that stuff scared you when the agents all came in the house and the big white coats and the way it's lit. And you think ET's gonna die. Like all that stuff petrified you as a kid. And then you had the fantastic John Williams score, which I might have to listen to today. Yesterday, while I was doing my work, I was listening to the Titanic score. That's really rising up my list as well as like the best scores of all time. James Horner, very underappreciated. And that Titanic score, very similar to the again, I'm just rattling out movies. What a minute. Wow, drawing a blank. But anyway, similar score that James Horner has done in the past, sure. But I absolutely still love that score. And Titanic is becoming one of the greatest scores of all time, in my opinion. Also, really fits the movie. Might be a Titanic day, mainly because it looks like from where I live here in the Northeast, with the nor'easters we've been getting northeast of the United States. It looks like the world's ending out there just because of all the nor'easters we just got hit with and all the wind and rain. So it might be a good Titanic day because it looks like the world is sinking. Great film also. So E.T. had to make my list for the non-spooky season movies, of course. And the last one I have on my list that I grabbed and put in the stack was Philadelphia. Philadelphia, maybe not the most beloved film because it's a very sad movie. Has one of the saddest endings you'll ever imagine in film history. And that's kind of part of the reason why I like it. Sometimes a good sad movie is good to remind you how to feel sadness, give you those old feelings again. And you feel bad for Tom Hanks' character in this movie, even though justice is served at the very end of it, because it's about a guy who ends up contracting AIDS, and his job, he's one of the top lawyers of this law firm. They even recruited him, but they find out he has AIDS. They find out he's a gay man, which he was trying to hide, and they fire him. They fired him for having AIDS. And now a homophobe in Denzel Washington's character, who just had a baby at the beginning of this movie and is obviously scared of AIDS as well because it's of the time, doesn't want to represent him initially in court, but then comes around and decides to and does the right thing, and it changes his perspective. It's directed by Jonathan Demme, who this is the movie he did after he did The Silence of the Lambs, which he got a lot of blowback for how he treated the gay community in that movie. So he made this movie. And, I think it's just as good as The Silence of the Lambs, if I'm being honest. There was a time when I put this movie in my top 20 all time. I cooled a little bit on it, but this 4K Blu-ray, by the way, is also really, really good. It's another one that just feels like autumn in the Northeast. Like it's not, maybe this is kind of more like late October, early November, because it looks like it snowed a little bit, which can happen this time of the year. But for the most part, it's just that cold rain, that cold, disgusting rain. And you can see a lot of that in Philadelphia because the show Always Sunny in Philadelphia is called that because I think it's only sunny in Philadelphia 15 days of the year, which On Long Island, I think we hit that a little bit more, but we have a lot of rainy days here as well. A lot of cold, nasty days. So if you can capture that weather in a film, and I think they absolutely capture it in Philadelphia, that's why it becomes one of my all-time favorite films. And Tom Hanks, I've never been shy about it. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. Is he the greatest actor of all time? I don't think that's necessarily true. This is something you gotta. This is the questions I always kind of talk to David, aka Shamrock Balls, about. Is like, what makes the greatest actor of all time? Like, is it your favorite actor? Like, are people argue, and I've even said it before. Like, is Daniel Day-Lewis the greatest actor of all time because of how he just falls into these roles and characters? But then the argument being, well, he doesn't really do anything else. He doesn't really do action. He, for the most part, plays it safe in period piece films where, his accent and his look are going to like play into things. And he's like, making sure that he never goes outside of his comfort zone, and he just masters that comfort zone. But then there's guys like Jack Nicholson who can like fall into characters as well. Has a different style, but you could say, well, he's always Jack Nicholson in a way, which I'll push back a little bit on. But it's always those questions about who is the greatest actor of all time and like what actually qualifies for that. Like what is your perspective? Because like Eddie Murphy's even said it in the past, like, he did the Nutty Professor where he's acting just against the table of tennis balls because he plays every character. That's hard acting, but he gets a nomination for Dreamgirls, and he said all I was doing was a little bit of face acting, and that's the one they give me the nomination for. So it always comes down to like, how do you feel in these certain situations? I just always find that pretty interesting. But that's actually my list here, guys, for today for the most autumn kind of films that we have that we would watch during spooky season if we want to take some breaks. So if you guys have any want to add to your list, some questions, I'll take them a little bit before I get out of here today. But if not, we're going to be back tomorrow night with another live show, Let's Talk Physical Media, which has been a pretty slow news week, but there's so much coming out. There's plenty for us to talk about tomorrow night at 6:45 p.m. Eastern time. So I know my European friends unfortunately don't make that one. But becomes more of like the American people show up for that because it's a little bit later for them. They're just all rising from the dead at this time in the morning, and they probably don't want to hear my mouth in their ear at 8:30 in the morning. But hey, that's what we do here on the Let's Talk Morning Show. I don't know if Dennis will be back next week or not, but we'll have to wait and see. This is a good one. 7 is definitely a fall movie and never stops rating. Oh my, yeah, I actually would always watch 7, believe it or not. It's when the 4K came out as well. Always was like a January, February movie to me. You're right, though. It's definitely not taking place in January and February. I always kind of felt like when it's like cold and cloudy outside, that's the time to put. Although today does feel like a kind of 7-day. I wouldn't mind revisiting that 4K Blu-ray. That's one of the early 2025 4K Blu-rays too. So when I'm making the end of the year list, I definitely have to check that one out. Are you getting Ninja Turtles trilogy? Buddy, I pre-ordered that day one, 100%. I can't wait. And each movie in that trilogy will get its own 4K Blu-ray review because we got to talk about them all individually. I mean, it might be a little bit tougher because they probably do something with the extras, but we'll wait and see. But I would like to talk about all those movies individually because I know that that's your favorite childhood movies, Mr. Smelly Potato, the Ninja Turtle movies. So I know you're excited for that. I got the regular classic edition. I didn't get the Arrow store exclusive, even though I ordered it from Arrow. I think that the classic edition with the old artwork was the better artwork than the new artwork, but I know everyone's different. I'm not too sure which route you went. I pre-ordered the Wild Geese and Reanimator special edition. I need to pre-order Reanimator because that's a much cheaper version than the one that they had earlier this year. I couldn't afford that, but I can get the one that I think right now I can even get it from Amazon. And Reanimator also very good for this time of the year. I have the Arrow Video Blu-ray, but I've heard such good things about the 4K. I have to check it out. I received Return of the Living Dead in the post from Arrow this morning. If it looks as good as the 4K Blu-ray we got from Shout over here, you're going to be eating good in the neighborhood, buddy. That's my favorite zombie film. The only thing with that film is it takes place on, I believe, July 3rd. So it always felt like a summer movie because we know it takes place right before the 4th of July. So I always thought that movie, I have to watch it in July, which is weird because I'll never watch any other zombie. Shaun of the Dead. I watched Shaun of the Dead not too long ago. I guess that's kind of a September film as well. As far as 4K Blu-ray reviews coming up here on the channel for the rest of the week, we'll have a bunch of them as well. But there's something big that we'll have later on Friday. What's up, Mister? What's up, Mellow Fellow? Got here a little bit late. We're gonna be getting out of here pretty soon. Just kind of promote what's coming up on the channel. Like I said, tomorrow night we're definitely gonna be having the live show. Let's Talk Physical Media at 6:45. On Thursday, there will be another Nightmare 4K Blu-ray review as we're wrapping those up. But on Friday, David and I, David aka Shabrock Balls, are going to be going on a journey for Scream, a 3-hour and 11-minute journey where we tackle the entire film. Actually, channel members can check that out right now. It's all ready to go. But I'm really looking forward to you guys checking that out. I know David is as well. It's another, I think, great show from us. And we'll talk about what we'll be doing after you get that on Friday. Then Saturday, you'll either get Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning on 4K Blu-ray, or Jacob's Ladder. Both of those will be here today, so I'll get that review out. And then, either way, or the rest will be out as well. And then we got more 4K Blu-rays coming, Altered States, History of Violence, Rocky Horror Picture Show, Weapons, all that down the pike. But that's going to do it here for me this morning. And wherever you guys are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Hope you guys enjoy your day. Hopefully I see you guys on tomorrow night's live show. If not, enjoy the rest of your week, and have a good one. I'll be seeing you around.